Emily lived in a small, busy town with her mother, Clara. They were happy together, but one day, Clara got very sick and passed away. Emily was heartbroken. Her father, George, didn't know how to take care of everything on his own. Some people in their community told him it would be good to marry again, so George agreed. George married a woman named Martha, who had a daughter called Sarah. At first, Emily was excited to have a new mother and sister. She welcomed them with open arms, hoping they would become a happy family. But soon, Emily noticed something strange. Martha started treating Sarah much better than her. Sarah got the best clothes, the most attention, and Emily often felt left out. One day, a rich businessman named James came to their town. He was kind and polite, and he noticed Emily. He liked how simple and humble she was, so he decided to ask George for her hand in marriage. George was very happy and proud that such a wealthy man wanted to marry his daughter. But Martha didn't like this news. She wanted James to marry Sarah, not Emily. Sarah is the one who deserves a rich husband, Martha thought. She began to make a plan. Martha started saying bad things about Emily to George, telling him that Emily wasn't ready to be a good wife. She also told Sarah to talk to Emily. Sarah warned Emily, James is not a good man. Marrying him will only bring you trouble. Emily felt confused and sad. She didn't know why her stepmother and stepsister were acting this way. A few days later, James came back to visit George. He told George that he wanted to marry Emily and no one else. Martha was upset. She decided to take things further. She started telling lies about Emily to other people in the community. She said Emily was lazy and wouldn't make a good wife. These lies spread quickly, and soon, some people started to believe them. The rumors even reached Mr. Lawrence, an important man in the town who had a lot of influence. Mr. Lawrence called James for a meeting and told him, if you marry Emily, it might ruin your reputation. People are saying bad things about her. You should think carefully. James became worried. He really liked Emily, but he didn't want to lose the respect of the people in town. He started to pull away from Emily. Emily noticed that James was acting differently. She felt hurt and alone. But deep in her heart, she decided not to let the lies break her. She promised herself that she would stay strong and prove everyone wrong. James eventually stopped visiting Emily's home, and this made Martha very happy. She believed her plan was working. Sarah was also excited, thinking she now had a chance to catch James's attention. Emily, on the other hand, felt a deep sadness but didn't show it. She focused on helping her father and staying true to herself. One day, George noticed how quiet Emily had become. Emily, are you okay? He asked gently. She nodded, but her father could see the sadness in her eyes. He decided to talk to James directly. When George visited James, he asked, why have you stopped coming to see Emily? She is a good girl with a kind heart. James hesitated before replying, Mr. Lawrence warned me about some rumors. People are saying Emily is not fit to be a good wife. I don't know what to believe. George was angry but kept calm. Don't listen to rumors, James. Emily is honest, hardworking, and kind. You won't find anyone better. James looked thoughtful but still seemed unsure. Meanwhile, Martha decided to take things further. She told Sarah to start spending time around James, hoping he would notice her instead. Sarah began dressing in her finest clothes and making excuses to visit places where James might be. But James remained uninterested in Sarah. His mind kept drifting back to Emily's gentle smile and kind words. One afternoon, while walking through the market, James overheard two traders talking. You know, Martha has been spreading lies about Emily, one said. She wants James to marry her daughter, Sarah. James felt a mix of anger and regret. He realized he had been fooled by Martha's lies. That evening, he decided to visit Emily to apologize. When James arrived at Emily's home, she was sitting under a tree, reading a book. She looked up in surprise when she saw him. "Emily," James began, "I'm sorry. I believed things about you that weren't true. I let other people's words cloud my judgment." Emily looked at him for a moment before replying, "It hurt, James, but I'm glad you came to tell me the truth." James smiled softly. "I still want to marry you, if you have me." But before Emily could answer, Martha and Sarah appeared at the gate. They had overheard James's words and were furious. Martha marched up to James and said, "How can you still want to marry Emily? My daughter Sarah is better for you." James looked at Martha calmly. "I've made my choice, and it's Emily. Please respect that." Martha's face turned red with anger. She turned to Emily and snapped, "This isn't over." Emily didn't let Martha's words scare her. She stood tall and replied, "I'm not afraid of you, Martha. Your lies can't change who I am." Martha stormed off, dragging Sarah behind her. "I'll show them," she muttered under her breath, vowing to come up with another plan. Sarah, however, was beginning to feel tired of her mother's schemes. She quietly said, "Maybe we should leave them alone, Mama. James has already chosen." Martha shot her a sharp look. "Don't be foolish, Sarah. You're the one who deserves that life, not Emily." Meanwhile, back at Emily's house, James sat with George and Emily, discussing their future. "I want to make things right," James said. "But I know people will talk, especially with the rumors Martha has spread." George nodded. "People will always talk, but as long as you both stand together, nothing can break you." Emily smiled at her father's words, feeling a sense of hope she hadn't felt in weeks. The next day, Martha decided to spread even bigger lies about Emily. She told the market traders that Emily had stolen money from her father's shop. The news spread quickly, and soon, people began whispering whenever Emily walked past. But Emily remained calm, knowing the truth would prevail. James, however, couldn't stay quiet. He decided to confront Martha in public. At the market square, he called out to her, "Martha, enough of your lies. Everyone here knows Emily is an honest person. Why do you want to destroy her name?" Martha, caught off guard, stammered, I only said what I heard." James shook his head. "No, you created those lies because you want me to marry Sarah. But love doesn't work that way. I love Emily, and nothing you do will change that." The crowd began murmuring, with many agreeing with James. Martha realized she had lost the people's trust. Feeling humiliated, she grabbed Sarah and hurried away. Sarah, embarrassed by her mother's behavior, avoided looking at anyone. Later that evening, Emily thanked James for standing up for her. "You didn't have to do that," she said softly. "I did it because I care about you," James replied. "No one should believe those lies." Just when things seemed to calm down, a messenger arrived at Emily's house the next morning. "Miss Emily, there's been a complaint filed against you at the village council. Martha is accusing you of stealing." Emily's heart sank. George looked furious but said, "We'll face this together." At the council meeting, Martha presented her so-called evidence, a torn piece of cloth she claimed belonged to Emily, found near her missing money. Emily calmly said, "I've never stolen anything in my life. This is just another one of Martha's lies." James stood up and added, "I saw Emily the day she supposedly stole the money. She was helping her father at home. She couldn't have done it." The council members looked at Martha suspiciously. "Do you have any proof beyond this cloth?" one of them asked. Martha hesitated, realizing her plan was falling apart. Suddenly, Sarah stood up. "Enough, Mama," she shouted. Emily didn't steal anything. You made up all of this because you want James to marry me. Gasps filled the room as everyone turned to look at Martha. The council leader frowned and said, "Martha, you've wasted our time and tarnished an innocent girl's name. You will apologize to Emily and face a fine for spreading false accusations." Martha, defeated, reluctantly mumbled an apology to Emily. But Emily, ever gracious, said, "I forgive you, Martha. I hope you find peace." As they left the council, James turned to Emily. "You amaze me every day with your strength." Emily smiled. "Sometimes, strength is the only choice we have." Days passed, and the village began to heal from the chaos Martha had caused. Emily and James grew even closer, spending more time together, enjoying quiet walks by the river, or simply talking about their future. Emily's heart, once filled with doubt, now swelled with hope. She was no longer just the girl who had to endure Martha's lies, but a young woman who had found the strength to stand tall. But Martha's bitterness didn't end with the council's decision. She continued to plot, now desperate to find a way to tear Emily and James apart. One evening, Martha approached Sarah with a new idea. "You need to get close to James again," she whispered. "He's still weak. He hasn't chosen yet, not really. If you make him feel sorry for you, he'll come back." Sarah, though unsure, felt conflicted. She didn't want to hurt Emily, but she also didn't want to disappoint her mother. Martha, sensing Sarah's hesitation, insisted, "Do it for yourself, Sarah. Don't you want a life of luxury, of comfort?" But Sarah, with a heavy heart, decided it was time to stop following her mother's schemes. She knew she couldn't live in a house of lies anymore. That night, after Martha had gone to bed, Sarah went to Emily's house. It was late, but she couldn't wait any longer. "Emily, I need to talk to you," Sarah said when Emily opened the door. Her voice trembled slightly. "Come in, Sarah." "What's wrong?" Emily asked, her concern evident. She had always tried to be kind to Sarah, despite everything that had happened. "I've been wrong," Sarah said, sitting down. "I've been part of my mother's plan. I've let her tell me that James should be mine. But I know now that's not right. I see how much you love him, and I've realized that he's made his choice." Emily looked at her, surprised by her honesty. "Are you saying you're not going to try and stop us?" Sarah shook her head. "No. I'm sorry, Emily. I don't want to be the cause of more pain. You have my blessing." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. "Thank you, Sarah. That means more than you know." The next day, as the sun began to set, James came to Emily's house, his face serious but warm. "I've been thinking," he started, taking Emily's hand. "We've been through so much, and I know it hasn't been easy. But I can't imagine my life without you in it." Emily's heart skipped a beat. "James, I want to marry you, Emily. I want to make this right. No more lies, no more games. Just us," James said, his voice firm but full of love. Emily smiled, tears of joy filling her eyes. "Yes, James. Yes." They embraced, both of them knowing that despite everything they had been through, they were stronger now. They had found each other, and together, they could face whatever came next. But Martha, still angry and desperate, was not done. That very night, she stood at the edge of the village, watching the stars and plotting her next move. She would not give up so easily. Her mind raced, her heart full of fury, knowing that she couldn't allow Emily to live happily ever after. Martha's heart burned with anger as she watched from the shadows. Her plans had been foiled, but she couldn't accept defeat. The joy she saw between Emily and James was like a fire in her chest, and she couldn't bear it. For Martha, losing was never an option. If she couldn't control James, then she would make sure that Emily's happiness wouldn't last. The following morning, Martha sat with Sarah, a new plan forming in her mind. "We can't let them be happy," she said, her voice cold. "Emily doesn't deserve this life. You'll see, Sarah, once I'm done, James will be back to you." Sarah, still confused and torn between her feelings for James and the guilt of betraying Emily, looked uneasy. "What do you mean, Mama?" "I'll make sure Emily's life falls apart," Martha replied. "Once James sees how unstable she is, he'll have no choice but to come back to you." But Sarah had enough. She stood up, her voice steady but firm. "No, Mama. I won't do it anymore. I'm not going to hurt Emily. I've been wrong, and I won't be a part of your lies anymore." Martha's eyes narrowed. "You'll regret this, Sarah. You'll see." But Sarah walked away, her heart lighter than it had been in years. She knew she had made the right choice. Meanwhile, James and Emily's love continued to grow. They spent their days walking through the village, helping the villagers, and enjoying each other's company. Emily had finally found peace, and James was more in love with her than ever. One afternoon, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the village, James took Emily's hand. "Emily, I want to make a promise to you," he said softly. "What promise?" she asked, looking into his eyes. "I promise that no matter what happens, I always protect you," he said, his voice full of conviction. "We've been through so much, and I want to build a life with you. I want us to be happy." Emily smiled, her heart full of warmth. "I promise the same," she replied. "We'll make it through anything, together." The promise they made that day was more than just words. It was a bond that would carry them through the hardest of times, a reminder that love was stronger than any obstacle. But Martha's shadow still loomed over them. As the weeks passed, she secretly began to spread rumors around the village about Emily. She told lies, whispering that Emily had dark secrets, that she couldn't be trusted. At first, the villagers didn't believe her, but Martha's words began to take root. Emily noticed the change in the way people looked at her. She could hear the whispers behind her back, feel the coldness in the air when she walked through the village. It hurt her deeply, but she tried to stay strong. She confided in James one evening, after a long day of work. "James, something's wrong. People are treating me differently. I feel like I'm being judged." James looked at her, his face hardening with anger. "It's Martha, isn't it? She's spreading lies about you." Emily nodded, tears filling her eyes. "Why? Why can't she just let us be happy?" James squeezed her hand, his voice full of determination. "I'll talk to the villagers. They'll know the truth. Martha can't keep doing this."